All right, I wanted to make a quick video on my database schema, basic database schema for the website BellevilleRunningClub.com, and I can kind of explain what I've created here. And so you'll notice first off that I'm using a different software than Oomlet. And so Oomlet is one piece of software to kind of create these database diagrams. LucidChart is another popular one. If you want to just make an account for free, you can have a couple of diagrams for free on LucidChart, and then you just add these UML classes to your chart. And so there's all these different shapes that you could add, and that's all I've done. I just registered an account on LucidChart and drafted this document. Now this will change with time as the flexibility of Mongo allows us to do that. But again, this is my schema for the website, BellevilleRunningClub.com. And so what we're going to have is just a simple user registration collection. And so we'll have a user collection will be our first one. And then you'll see over here that one user, if I kind of zoom in here to the relationships, one user can have many points. And so it's a one-to-many relationship. You could say a user, can have 0 or many points, and that is true. So just because there's a user account does not mean they get any points. But basically, it's a one-to-many relationship. And then going the other way, a point document would belong to one user. So we have a one-to-one relationship. For every point, every 1 point record, it's going to belong to one user. And so in Mongo, when you create a new user, they will be given a GUID, globally unique object ID. And so that's the first piece of data about each user. Will have their own unique ID. Some registration systems you log in with your email. Other registrations you log in with your username. I will probably care less about the username and just more care about their email and use their email as their login. Another thing, of course, is we will need a password. Now, a password will be an encrypted string. And so we're going to learn a tool called bcrypt. And bcrypt is going to encrypt and decrypt our passwords. But at the end of the day, it's just an encrypted string. And so we will store the user's email. We will store the user's password. We will store their given name, which is, in America, their first name typically. And then their family name being their last name. Just depending on, if you're really making global software, sometimes, the given name is the second name in that order. But nonetheless, we'll call a given name and family name instead of first name and last name. We'll store the user's address, and then we will have a property for the points that year, for the total points that year. And so this will be a collection of all the points for that user for that year. So every time a new point gets added for a user, it'll go into a JavaScript object. And so, actually, if I would format this out, if we were to say, okay, 2024, you might have 10 points, 2023, and so you can kind of see here how this is going to work. Yearly points is a JavaScript object full of the years and how many points they had for that year. The points collection is so there's kind of I should maybe explain this a little bit. We're basically going to have a contest every year where you can gain these fictional points. They're called BAM points. And at the end of the year, the people with the most points get prizes. And so those prizes might be a pair of running shoes. It might be a running club membership. It might be, running attire. It might be race entries. But basically, there will be incentives based on who has the most points. Again, they're called BAM points, BAM points. And so this is a collection for points, and this is an individual user's point. And so, for example, if they complete a marathon, that's 26 miles, therefore you would get 26 points for completing a marathon. So you get points for completing events, you get points for going to meetings, you get points for these different ways. And so you can see there's an object ID for your points document. There's a user ID because, well, who do these points belong to? There's a calendar year for what year were these points accrued. There's the number of points that you actually get. And then there's a date and a date property for the, really you don't need the time, just the date that the user got the points. Okay, so you can see users can have many points, but points belong to one user. With this kind of relational type feel to it, we have a user ID. You know, it's to say that, you know, this is a NoSQL database, but it doesn't mean that you can't have relationships. You certainly still can have relationships. They're just not, you know, they're not a hard or strict requirement. And so then the third collection I have with no relationship to the other two is the yearly rankings collection. And so this is going to be for historical data. And so you could think of this table off on its own to kind of store, you know, hey, in 2024, so object ID, year number is 2024, who were the top 10 people in 2024? Who were the top 10 people in 2023? Who were the top 10 people in 2022? The longer this is maintained, the more yearly rankings we'll have. So obviously, you know, I'm going backwards, but this software will be new, and so it'll be 2024 moving forward. So, you know, the year will be 2024, 2025, 2026. The longer it's used, the more yearly rankings this will accrue. And again, this is kind of to look at past data, as well as the current year's ranking, right? So they should be able to go to the website and see who's the top 10 rank right now at any point in time for this calendar year. Okay, so this is the draft. This is the draft for the database schema. It's not complex, and it is likely to change as requirements change and as I think of things that I didn't think of before, and as I, well, frankly, as I start to bring this into production and start to use it and actually have people using it, they're going to tell me how to make my software better. This will, without a doubt, change. And, you know, you can export this. You can export this as a picture, so export it as a PNG, and there you go. And so you have an image to work from, and you don't have to log into the LucidChart app. And so I've done that. I have already exported this image, and in fact, I'll do it again after I've made these changes. So let me kind of go ahead and export this as a PNG. And I'll say maybe later, and I'll download this file, and I'm going to download it onto my repo for BRC. There's my database schema.png, and I will replace that, right? So the next thing that I'll do quickly here is I will go ahead and just create this database. Now, we've been working a lot with Mongo Compass, and so you're learning queries to write with the shell commands. There's another tool that if you've been following along, you've been working with Mongo Shell, there's another tool called Compass that you can optionally use. That you can connect not to local host, but notice if I click here, I kind of have a sample DBs. I kind of have my credentials automatically in here. I should have walked through this, how to use Mongo Compass and connect in. But if I haven't, you just need to go to the website, MongoDB. I'll ask me later, MongoDB, and you need to authenticate to the website, and then you need to click the connect button, and connect via Compass. So let me plug this in and just briefly walk through this process of connecting via Mongo Compass. And so what you do here, once you're here, I'm going to go to Atlas, and let me back out a little bit. I see these different projects that I have, and so a project is pretty far. So I believe most of my projects, let's see, if I look at my Inflix project, and if I look at my database, it says monitoring. Let me see, browse collections. I haven't used some of this in a while. But here you could see that there's a lot of databases. This is the one that I've been using a lot. Anyways, let me back out here. So let's just say I want to connect to the Inflix project. Let's click on database. You click connect. This is the button you're looking for. And then you're going to click on Compass, and it's going to give you a connection string here. You're going to copy this, paste your username and password for your Mongo credentials. So you're going to copy that connection string, and then you're going to hit new connection, and then you're going to paste in your password, and you're going to click connect. You're going to do that, and you're going to connect in. You can see those same databases that I was just looking at, and you're going to look at these right here. Okay, so I'm going to clean a lot of this up because I don't need a lot of these databases. I've just been tinkering around with. But I am going to create a database called Belleville Running Club, and I'll create my first collection called user, my user collection. And then I can create another collection. And per the document, if I kind of go back to my document that I just created for the collection name, open up my image here. So I have a user, and what I want to point out is the convention user versus points. You should just be consistent, whether it's the users and the points or user and point. Just be consistent. And so I'll update my UML to be, I'm just going to go with singular here. So if I go back to here, I will say point, the point collection. So you can kind of see my two collections here. And last but not least, I will create the last yearly ranking. And again, making them singular or plural. Let me think about this here. I was second guessing, and so I asked ChatGPT, what's a better practice, singular or plural table names? And it recommends singular because in object oriented, you've got classes, and those are always singular. And so they recommend the best convention is singular. So we'll just stick with it. And the last one here being my yearly ranking singular. And again, what's beautiful about this is that it can change if need be. Yearly ranking. Excuse me. Let me click this plus button, and we'll say yearly ranking is a collection. Now, yes, I can go to the Mongo shell and I can insert dummy data. All of that is likely to change as soon as next week. Next week, we are going to learn what's called RESTful APIs, where we actually tie in our Express API into the Mongo database. And we'll actually write some methods to insert data and update data and delete data in these collections as early as next week. So I just wanted to kind of create the database, create the collections. I'm not going to put in any dummy data now because that's all, likely to change in the next week anyways. But I just wanted to take a quick video, show off the current ERD along with, let's just create the database, create the collections, and kind of set this up for what's coming in the near future.